So I think this London Olympics has really been interesting. It's brought a lot of things to light. First of all, first of all, we now know that the Kenyans can be beaten. All right, that was evidenced in the 10,000 meters, um, the marathon. I mean, except for the 800, David Rudisha is just a freaking beast. But the Kenyans are not invincible. And who would have thought that at the same Olympics, you'd have some iconic runner like Ryan Hall that supposedly had a legitimate medal contention hopes would just completely bitch out. And then you have someone like Galen Rupp, who a lot of people thought had no chance, becomes a freaking man and represents our country with pride and does his absolute best and more. And Leo Manzano also. For those of you that didn't watch the marathon, let me give you a quick little recap. So I stayed up, late to watch this race. I was tired, had a long day, but you know what? I was so excited. I've been looking forward to the Olympics for a long time, and especially the marathon. When the Olympics started, I kept thinking, okay, when is track and field starting? When is the marathon starting? That's what I wanted to see. Because I really respect marathon runners. Because I know how hard a marathon is. Just completing one is hard. And to run it with the whole country watching, it's a lot of pressure. But it's courageous to take on that responsibility. But with that said, you're not just automatically some national hero just because you put on, a USA jersey. You have to earn it. You have to show, I guess they did earn it to put it on, but you have to show that you are deserving to wear that, those colors. So, it's in Hawaii, the race started at midnight. So I thought, okay, I'm going to watch this race from like midnight to 2 a.m. I'm going to be tired, but, I'll stick it out. I'll do it for my country. So the race starts, and I'm just pumped. I got, a big, huge box of goldfish I'm just munching on. And I'm just like, I'm ready. I got snacks, drinks. I'm ready to go. Don't need to go to the bathroom. I already took care of that business. I'm not missing a moment. And in the very beginning, it was cool to see all the American runners. Abdi Rockman, Meb Keflezighi, Ryan Hall. They all were near the front, and they were showing, that they weren't afraid of the competition. They were here to prove a point, or so I thought. Somewhere before the 5K mark, or around that time, I noticed Meb was still pretty close. I think he was like 8 seconds back, but he was in the hunt still. And then Abdi Rockman, I think he was still somewhat close. And then I just remember seeing Ryan Hall kind of lagging behind. I'm like, man, like this guy's doing it again. Like, okay, it seems like Ryan Hall, it's kind of like he's the Lolo Jones of the marathon. Okay, because Lolo Jones runs the 100-meter hurdles. And she's very attractive. Maybe that's part of the reason why she is this like propaganda athlete. But she is always in all these commercials and blogs and videos and stuff. And I never hear about any of the other American women hurdlers we have that are very good, very talented. And then in the Olympics, I'm watching her in the prelims and I'm like, okay, she's probably not going to medal. And then she got fourth, which is not bad, but definitely overrated. And then Ryan Hall, and all you hear about is Ryan Hall, even though he didn't win the Olympic trials, but I thought, okay, he probably didn't care, he made the team. I always, in the back of my mind, I always try to justify things with Ryan Hall. I'm like, oh, well, he choked in that one race, he got fourth, and he said he was going to win, but he ran that Boston time, the 2:04 Boston. Everyone talks about that, 2:04 in Boston. What's funny is, when people bring up the 2:04 in Boston with Ryan Hall to defend him, it's kind of like when Kobe Bryant fans always go, oh, well, Kobe Bryant is the best ever because he scored 81 points in that one game. but it had a crazy tailwind. I mean, everyone ran huge PRs, and he hasn't run anything close to that since. Like that was his only like crazy performance. And it's not about what you do in one meet that doesn't mean anything. Okay, it's what you do in the Olympics on the biggest stage. And it's not all about time, it's about place. Like Meb didn't even have a PR under 209, but he won the Olympic trials and he did well in the Olympic marathon in London. He got fourth. He freaking balled out. Ryan Hall has often been quoted as saying that he thinks a sub 2 hour marathon is possible and he thinks that he can do it. And he always talks about beating the Kenyans and competing with them. Like this shirt. This shirt signifies it. White Kenyan. Showing that, white guys can represent and, Americans can still compete. That's kind of like why I got this shirt. Because I was inspired by everything that Ryan Hall says. And I'm like, man, I want to be like him, But I completely take that back. What I was really impressed with in the marathon in general was a lot of championship races when a lot is on the line. You don't normally see fast times in the distance events because it becomes a tactical race where no one wants to take the pace. For instance, the 5K comes to mind. That race was like chicken shit for 2/3 of it. And then the last like 5 laps, they picked it up. And the last lap and a half was pretty crazy, pretty nuts. Overall, it was a decent race, but I wasn't overly impressed just because the pace was freaking. They ran the first mile in 4:44. Come on, I could do that. I just that's what makes me really respect someone like Prefontaine. I know maybe his tactics weren't, the greatest, and he never got a medal. But there's a reason why he is still talked about to this day, 45, 50 years later. And it's because of his attitude and just the way he carried himself and approached every race. He gave it everything he had. To give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. And anyone, speaking of gifts, okay, there's no runner that should know more about the natural gift than Ryan Hall, Mr. Religious, poster boy. I mean, the guy, I don't like to bash people that are religious, but the guy has like this crackpot notion that God is his coach and tells him what to do and like helps him in the race. And I just, every time someone says that, I'm just like, are you that presumptuous to think that like God would help you in something so meaningless as just a marathon? Like, why would he not help anyone else? Why would he even focus on you for that? Like, that's not even... I mean, the marathon's great, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just a race. It's not... It doesn't have any impact on the world. So, I just don't like when he says stuff like that. So, leading up to the race, I know that in a half marathon, I think it was like the Las Vegas Rock and Roll half marathon or something, Meb beat Ryan Hall, and Ryan Hall got second. And he said that I think he ran like, what was it, 65 minutes or something, like kind of slow. And he said for him, and he said that his foot was bothering him. But then leading up to the race in London, okay, the week leading up, I kept hearing interviews of Ryan Hall talking about, oh yeah, I feel ready, and I'm training, my training's going well, and I feel good, and I'm racing. He said racing for podium is his top priority, and he was, confident, and I just, like, he didn't have any indication that there was an injury or anything. Okay, with Desiree Davila on the women's side, the American female Olympic runner, marathon runner, we all knew she had an injury, but she didn't want to stay out of the race. Like, everyone else tried to counter her out, and she said, no, I still want to try to run. And she dropped out, but dude, she was like, you knew ahead of time she had a nagging injury. Ryan Hall didn't give any indications of this at all. And neither did Abdi Rockman. And then they both drop out at 11 miles into the race. Like, almost simultaneously. I mean, did they both, like, nudge each other and just say, hey, this isn't fun. We're getting our ass kicked, and we're we're not living up to, our promises. We should just like drop out and just say we got injured or something. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, like I just don't understand. And Ryan Hall said that he tried to fight it for several miles, and his right hamstring was bothering him for some reason during the race, and he didn't want to injure himself to where it would affect his career. And it's like, well, if you can't even push it in the Olympics, what race are you saving yourself for? That's the biggest race of your life. Is the Olympic. That's what you work towards. I just don't understand, and he said, oh, I thought about if I should drop out or just try to finish and maybe in 3 hours and something. I'm thinking to myself, like, what? You run, low twos and you're talking about running a 3 hour something marathon? Okay, now I know a pulled hamstring hurts a lot, okay? Pulling a hamstring in like the 100 meters, like Asafa Powell did from Jamaica, that is crazy because you're running like, over 20 miles an hour and you just pull it like it's a different kind of pull. But, I've pulled my hamstring before recently. And yeah, but I wasn't sprinting. It was a lot different. It was like a lingering pain, but I could still run with it. It just hurt. Like it held me back speed-wise, but I'll still be able to run with it. And a couple days after I pulled my hamstring, I ran a 3:09 marathon, my PR, okay? And it hurt for 15 miles, and then it just went away, and it hurt the next day, but the point is, like, you can still run with it. And on the biggest stage, your whole country is watching you and supporting and cheering for you, and you just drop out like that less than halfway through the race. I just don't respect that. I'm sorry. I know I'm probably gonna get hate comments for that, but I think that's kind of a bitch move. And they shouldn't even interview people that don't even finish a race, especially when they don't even make it halfway. Like, I don't want to hear what he has to say, his excuses. He should just go back to his hotel room, read all the tweets that people send him about how he choked, and cry himself to sleep. When you drop out of a race in the Olympics, because we have the U.S. Olympic trials where, you take a spot on the team, meaning someone else can't run for the U.S. Like, we only have a certain amount of spots for each event. And I remember watching the Olympic trials, and David Ritzenheim, oh man, he was so close to making the team. He got fourth in the Olympic trials for the marathon, and he really badly wanted it. And he had a strong finish. And I remember in Beijing, he ran a courageous race, and he beat Ryan Hall. So I knew that David Ritzenheim, I was mad when he didn't make the team because I knew that in a big championship event, he doesn't shy away from the moment. He gives it his best. And at least in the Olympics, from what I observed in Beijing. And, when you drop out of a race, especially when Abdi Rahman also, both of them, 2 of our 3 Olympic runners in the marathon just drop out, you're basically just dick slapping all the people that are watching that could have made the team. The guy that got 4th and 5th and 6th, all the people that wanted to be on the team, you're basically spitting in their face like, ha, I don't relish this opportunity and you don't even get the opportunity. It's like when you come to the door of opportunity, you don't knock on it politely. You kick that bitch in and you seize the day, okay? Like Meb did. Meb was in 19th halfway through the race, and he crawled his way back. And I don't know if he ran negative split, but he definitely ran a consistent race. And he got 4th, man. And that is so... He's 37 years old. People counted him out when he didn't make the Olympic team in Beijing. He got silver medal in 2004, and in 2008 he didn't run it. And he came back with a vengeance. And he proved that, dude, the guy can run. And not just run, but run under pressure. So the Kenyan guy, I think who was the favorite to win, he took the lead around 10K mark, 12K mark. And I'm thinking, wow, he's going to try and win this race by running 20 miles by himself in the front. I thought it was a really gutsy move. And You know, he didn't end up winning. I think he got bronze or silver. I can't remember. I think it was silver. He got silver. I just know that the Kenyans got second and third, but the guy from Uganda got first, and it was so cool watching his interview because he was just so, um, happy for his country, and it was Uganda's first and only medal of the Olympics. So overall, we had a good Olympics for our distance runners. I think this, even our sprinters, I think we did well considering all the injuries we had. Our distance running, we had pretty good runners. The only thing I can say is in the marathon we're screwed because Ryan Hall bitched out. Abdi Rockman dropped out. Um, Ryan Hall basically showed that he doesn't have that killer instinct, and not just in this race. He constantly over promises and underachieves. Okay, and then Abdi Rockman dropped out too. He hasn't proved himself, and Meb, our strongest performer, is 37 years old, so he's not going to be in the Olympics again. So we're pretty much starting from scratch. So I don't even know what our team's going to look like in Rio for the marathon, but it's a big question mark. So anyone watching this, I don't know if you're into marathons, but you should consider trying to make the team because I'm sure any of you guys running that marathon would have finished. So in a sense, you would have beaten Ryan Hall. And sometimes it's not about winning. A Rio champion is someone that can finish the race even if they know they have no chance of winning.